It's Dom time. Now, Dom Giordano.
And I'm wondering, in the era of complete Republican control and guys that say that they're against all this stuff and how they can't figure out how to cut anything, what's happening? All right, let's go to Sean Kennedy. He joins us from Citizens Against Government Waste. Hey, Sean, another great book that you put out, entertaining and informative at the same time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, look, I even give up on, and I'm not making this in a partisan way. There's a different philosophy that they espouse. They see stuff like this as investments. I'm talking about Democrats or people like Bernie Sanders. But Republicans put that R in front of their name and say small government, we're going to weed out all this stuff. And they're some of the worst abusers.
Yeah, that's kind of true. I mean, it is a bipartisan thing, but, the earmark issue in particular is something that was really used by Republicans in the 90s by, individuals like Newt Gingrich for political purposes. So really, the earmarking issue really exploded under Republican leadership.
Absolutely. So give us some of what's the most egregious stuff that's going on right now around earmarks or around things that are just bloated government waste?
Yeah. So the first time in 7 years, there's a program called Save America's Treasures that was earmarked this year for $5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And in the past, this has gone to theaters, museums, opera houses, that sort of thing. And it's not clear from the bill where this funding will be spent this year. But this is something that has really been highlighted in the past by groups like CAGW as being wasteful, and even sort of led to, there used to be a congressman from West Virginia by the name of Alan Mollahan, and as Save America's Treasures earmark really contributed to his downfall. He, in 2010, earmarked some money to an organization that was headed by one of his former aides. So that could be happening again this year, and we would have no idea that it was occurring because of the lack of transparency in the bill.
Absolutely. So there are successes I want listeners to know. In other words, some of these people are taken out. They lose elections, or they have to move off this path, or you guys like you and other watchdogs catch them in some of this stuff, and they have to curtail a little bit. Let me give you the counter argument, though. There's still large numbers of Americans who think bringing home the bacon, their guy doing that. And shockingly, I've had some on here locally that I like even, Sean, that would tout the money they brought home.
Yeah, it's sort of, it's everyone's critical of a project that goes to someone else's district, but oftentimes you'll have politicians highlighting criticizing other earmarks for other states or districts, but the one that they bring to their district is worthwhile. So, the argument that we make is all of this funding should go through the normal competitive process. So the agency will thereby vet what is most necessary, or the project that is most necessary to be funded.
Well, I'll give you one where I think there's some real abuses because people are afraid if they're a patriotic American, and that's the military. They're afraid. They don't want to be seen as anti-military. I see that John McCain said your book is one that should be read by every citizen in America. And I disagree with McCain on some things, but when it comes to military spending, he's carved out a niche because you can't impugn his military background to go after some of these guys. It's not just the $600 or $700 toilet seat. It's weapon systems that are redundant or something that, they're maybe slightly better, maybe not, and they're billions of dollars more.
Yeah, that's right. And, there's a very good example of that. There's a $500 million earmark this year for 4 additional Joint Strike Fighter aircraft. And, I'm sure you're aware of this. This is the JSF has been roundly criticized. It's years behind schedule and over budget. And there's really pressing questions whether it is an improvement over the existing aircraft that's meant to replace. And what's ironic this year is not only was there a $500 million earmark for the Joint Strike Fighter program, but there's an additional $1 billion earmark for the very planes it's meant to replace. So these are some of there's $1 billion for 12 additional F/A-18s. It's also meant to replace the F-16, and there's some money in there for the F-16. So this is, the Joint Strike Fighter is such a perfect example of throwing good money after bad that we're having to fund now both platforms.
So, Sean, what's the rough totals that you guys put out there on the front page this time of all these earmarks, all these things that are out of bounds? What are you guys cataloging? How much in government spending?
Yeah, so the earmark moratorium has succeeded in reducing the number and cost of earmarks. By our definition, we are still finding earmarks. So the number this year is $6.8 billion. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't compare to the sort of the peak years in the mid 2000s. In 2006 there was $29 billion in earmarks, but that $6.8 billion figure is a third. It increased by a third from last year, and it's almost double the number from 5 years ago. So this is something that's slowly and steadily increasing year by year, and with a lack of transparency inherent in it. So at some point we're probably going to encroach the old record levels, and we will do so in a less transparent fashion, which is very problematic.
Well, you guys do great work, and it's an icon, the Piggy, the Citizens Against Government Waste. So where do people find the book, either online or where do they go?
Yeah, they can read it at pigbook.org.
Pigbook.org. They can go online. That's very nice. Not earmarked. Pigbook.org. Sean, thank you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
All right, there's from Citizens Against Government Waste. These are one of the all-time outfits. And as I said,